Hey guys, how's it going? Amma here. First thing first, don't forget to join my Discord server, which I will have the invite link pinned in the comments below if you are a Discord person. Today it's the monthly update of Final Fantasy Dissidia over Omnia tier list. Before I go on, I want to emphasize that this list is based on my opinions for each unit, whether it's by hands-on experience or by researching to find out how they performed for other players in the past month. A lot of people don't believe in tier lists for this game, and that's because they are heavily invested in the game, like I am. They are entitled to their own opinion, and that's fine, but I also believe that there are still people out there who appreciate this kind of video in order to point them in the right direction, if you will. In the video's description below you will find the tier list videos starting from January, as well as my characters analysis playlist. Keep in mind that this will not include every single character in the game right now. I am only including characters that I believe have a chance to see more chaos play with one way or another, without having to hard carry them. If you strongly disagree with some of my rankings, let me know in the comment section below and why you think differently. I'll also be including units that come in late May, or they will come in the upcoming month, and I will give a rank on how I think they will perform. So let's begin. This month I decided to do something different just for the tanks of the game. Since each tank offers a very different playstyle and you generally just want to use one of these in your team, I decided to exclude them from the actual tier list and instead just present what each can do for you and your team. First we have Snow, who is the newest addition to this role. Snow can honestly do no wrong in any team. He's really tanky himself, while he provides HP mitigation and some battery for your team. A great all-around tank. Edge is a situational tank that you mostly use for his party evasion buff. Bash is very sturdy like Snow, with the ability to draw all AoE damage to himself, but his longevity and own damage is very lacking. Next up we have the OG tank, Warrior of Light. His shields are not holding up as they used to, but he's still an amazing support-oriented tank, with heals, batteries and of course his shields. Galuf is now able to dodge magic attacks as well, but he really shines against physical type bosses through his counters. He offers brave mitigation and batteries for your team. Celeste is able to trivialize any kind of magic type boss, and her own damage is pretty respectable due to her fast EX, but that's all there is to her. Zack is a really selfish tank that dishes out the most damage you can have in a tank character, but doesn't know how to support your team. I was thinking about including Prompto in this category as well, but I'll decide on that for the next month. Now let's move on to the actual tier list, starting off with the S tier units. As you can see for this tier list, I'll be dividing each rank in order to more accurately portray how strong I think these characters are. S tier units are those that you will likely include in any team without giving it a second thought, given that they are not heavily countered by the stage, or they do not need the team to build around them. We're gonna start off with none other than the Queen of Global herself, Aranea. We do get some pretty insane units this month, but I'm not sure that they will be able to match Aranea's momentum that she has built up these past months. Maybe we're gonna have some changes starting next month. Penelo is not the best plug-and-play unit due to her many generic team buffs, but her versatility and her huge amount of free turns makes her remain a top-tier support. Vayne has been my favorite unit to play this month because of Hope, who is able to extend his free turns buff, which makes Vayne's already amazing kit borderline broken. Arciela will shortly release in the game and she will take everybody by storm. An amazing support that does a lot of things such as dispelling the enemy, silencing them while battering and healing your party in the meantime, all that while also dealing huge amounts of damage. Kais will release later this month and he will take the launch game style to a whole new level. This guy is why a lot of people did not invest in Lael. The more I use Leo, the more I like him. His debuff is a game changer and he has insane longevity. He's also one of the best friend support units out there. Like Penelo, Hope is an incredible support due to his many free turns. his huge brave damage mitigation and his fast EX. Kefka will receive his EX Plus and a rework during the next story chapter, and with that he will return to being arguably the best debuffer for quite a while. Cypher is a very strong AoE ranged unit that has high damage per turn due to the constant AoE or splash damage. His ability that prevents brave damage to your team is also very unique and powerful. Cloud of Darkness will be the new top magic DPS with amazing delay potential and a very hyped solo potential as well. Alphinaud will return shortly with his Lost Chapter and a brand new EX+. That will make him a very versatile magic DPS that can also support your team with auras and some healing if needed. Fujin gets an amazing rework and a very strong EX+ that works very well with other launchers like Kai's. Her ability to imperil wind while enchanting your team is just an icing on the cake. Jack hasn't been out for very long, but he's already shown us what insanely high damage per turn means. His ability to manipulate turns and choose when you want your enemy to take the turn is very valuable. Lena is a very difficult character for me because her party auras are very average, meaning she will likely want another aura character in the team as well. But as of right now, she's the best debuff immunity source in the game, and that makes her very valuable. Shadow has high damage per turn, similar to Jack, but slightly weaker, but he's able to counter with his dog for some extra damage. His high skill count is also a very big plus. Porom is the safest choice you can have as a support unit because she just doesn't let your team die, simple as that. Lightning is in a way similar to Vayne, but with slightly lower damage, but she's able to bypass melee resistances with her Thunder Imperil, so she has that going for her. Rosa is really hard to draw above in power because she can just stand there being pretty and let her team leech off her amazing auras. Her ability to erase does hurt the score, but I found myself in several occasions when that happened and still managed to get score, so don't blow off that ability. Next we have my personal favorite Ramza, who is able to constantly deal free HP damage without taking up turns, and his fast EX now hits really hard while extending his buff, which makes you feel good whenever you use it now, in contrast to the past. He's a very turn efficient unit. Last but not least, in the S tier we have Yuri, who, like I said in the last tier list video, is kind of flying under people's radar nowadays, but he's still strong as hell. Nothing has changed for him. He has amazing longevity, gravity shaving and strong party utility as well. All that with very respectable damage output. Now let's move on to the A tier. Let's start off the A tier with Hyrith, whose EX Plus turned her biggest weaknesses into a strength. A very versatile playstyle with considerable overflow auras for your team. Dark Knight Cecil may need to be paired up with Selfie most of the times, but the payoff is worth it in my opinion, because if you max out this unit, he becomes pretty consistent with his plus skills. Gida will receive her EX Plus during Alphinaud's Lost Chapter, and that will make her a very potent physical DPS thanks to her really fast EX and the ability to get free turns with her Brave or HP plus skills. Cyan will be featured in the same banner as Fujin from earlier, and his EX Plus will change him from a myth into a dream. With an EX skill that dispels the enemy while cleansing your party and being able to ignore defenses with every skill. Zidane will probably get overshadowed by Kai's on the same banner, but his EX Plus fixes a lot of his problems by giving him free turns and the ability to capitalize on his launching EX, while being a decent debuffer and a good shaver. Paladin Cecil is the good version of what a jack of all trades unit should be in my opinion, with a very versatile kit that fits in any situation. Papalimo is arguably the strongest elemental magic DPS that doesn't get locked out unless the enemy absorbs ice or fire. In any other situation, he's a monster in any team and he's able to switch from single target to AoE at will. Ultimecia has dropped in power in my opinion due to her low potencies, That said, her mechanics are still there, and if you support her correctly, she is still able to carry you in any stage. Sophie is praised for her ability to raise the recast speed of her team's EX skills, and for a good reason. She's able to breathe new life into slow EX units, such as Dark Knight Cecil or Exdeath. Rem is also staying relevant after all this time due to her kit, even though her low max brave is not helping her that much. Her turn manipulation with free turns is really unique. Lael, our OG launcher, is still a very strong magic DPS with some party utility, and he will almost always get you a max score in any stage. Y'shtola is still doing what she does best, but she is being outperformed by other support units, and the main reason is that her aura values are considered average at best at this point. Next up we have Vanille, that in my opinion remains one of the best debuffers and outright the best dispeller in the game, even with the addition of Arciela or Cyan, who can also dispel. Ignis has a strong versatile kit, but most of the times I find myself using his defensive mode because his high turn rate attacks while in his offensive mode are hurting your team, and he usually needs one more support in the team with him. Noel's EX Plus fixed some of his problems and helped him become chaos viable. He's your poor man's Vayne in a sense, but he still hits very hard. Shantoto is the best elemental damage enabler, and thanks to her fast EX and always hitting weaknesses with her skills, and her damage is very respectable as well. Gilgamesh can raise his own damage through the roof, and he can offer some utility to your party with his debuffs if necessary. King was a weird case for me, cause I am still not sure he's still as strong without building your team around him, but his free turns really help with his damage per turn, and his EX hits like a truck. Onion Knight is able to go from single target to AoE at will with a very similar kit to that of Papalimo. Not as strong, but he does provide your target with attack and overflow. Fran is the best ranged team enabler with some pretty good debuffs and very respectable damage. Sarah's damage has definitely fallen off, but her offensive focused buffs and auras are helping your team perform at their best, with her debuffs keeping you safe. Freya received her EX Plus today, and with that she gains the ability to give your team a last stand passive, coupled with her utility and damage, a very rounded unit. Exdeath does need some good support in order to have respectable damage output, but his ability to bypass any resistances or absorbs is amazing. You can take advantage of his inability to break with units like King or Aranea, and his unique debuffs are helping you to keep your party safe at all times. Lan and Rain are a very strong magic unit due to their attacks always hitting for weakness and doing 100% HP damage to all enemies. Any kind of absorb from the 5 elements will probably make them unplayable though. Setzer continues his high streak as an amazing friend unit, but he's also very reliable in your team as well, with his fast EX and his unique attacks of either delaying or freezing the enemy. Yang is a selfish DPS unit, but he has high damage per turn, thanks to all of his skills doing either AoE or splash damage. Emperor has also fallen off like Ultimecia, but with the proper support in the team he can still do what he does best, but you need to be mindful of his skill uses. Noctis is a ranged unit with turn manipulation and launches, but his follow-up attacks are not what they used to be, making him inferior to Shadow and Jack. Waga is another unit that I'm afraid I am placing too high. He has monstrous attack aura for your team and really good utility, but there's too much RNG behind his kit and you can't have other buffers in your team with him. Finally, in the 8th tier we have Beatrix, who is a longevity monster now, but her own potencies are below average. Her ability to cheese HP damage though is very valuable. The units in the B tier are not by any means bad and definitely not unplayable in my opinion. They just can't stab to the previous higher ranked characters, whether it's their damage, a different unit doing their job better, or having to build a team around them, for example. This tier will have the most units so far, and that should come as no surprise to anyone. The more units we get, the bigger the power creep becomes, making old units look weaker. I will not go into their strengths in detail, but rather say why I think they are not as strong as A or S tier units. Starting off the B tier with Irvine, who is just your typical ranged team enabler, but unfortunately Fran is a much better overall unit with the same job. Balthier's gimmick is still very strong, but his longevity suffers and his HP plus is very outdated. Ashe is a decent all-around character with debuffs, buffs, auras and utility, but she's just average in all of those things. Yuffie's potential to cheese could probably take her up to the A tier, to be honest, but other than that, she's just your average jack of all trades unit with more focused on debuffs. Cloud hasn't given me a reason to use him for the past 2 months or so, probably because deep down I know his longevity is not what it used to be, and the fact that you probably need all of his weapon passives to keep him relevant is kinda throwing me off. Tifa is in my opinion still a strong melee DPS with a very impactful EX skill, but we rarely get single target fights nowadays, and with multi-target fights lasting longer, Tifa becomes a liability. Bartz is the original aura bot, and this guy is very plug and play. Fits in every team you can think of, but there are characters with better auras out there and his own damage is falling off. Lilithset is a good debuffer with lots of team battery, but her potencies are not up to Chaos standards, I think, which also hurts her already limited shaving ability. Prish will shortly receive her EX Plus, and honestly that makes her more than viable in Chaos, but her slow EX is the source of her free skills and imperils for her many elemental skills. Coupled with the fact that she's a very speedy unit, you will have a hard time managing this unit. Firion is in a bad place in my opinion, being one of the early EX Plus unit. He didn't receive that much from it, and not getting a rework made him outdated very fast. Sabin is a clear example of how every unit can be used in any stage, thanks to Ingwelder, who used him in every stage since Rosa's Lost Chapter. Usually I would rate a character with a stacking mechanic lower, but Sabin is actually hitting really hard with his skills with Imperil and Enchant combo and his ability to ignore defense. Next we have the other Figaro brother Edgar, who I think has a similar kit with Sabin that is more focused on debuffs instead of having a stack mechanic. I do think he's slightly weaker and his role as a debuffer can be done better by other units. Caius is yet another debuffer in this list with a very slow EX and a low skill count, which makes him, as I like to call him, Agrias 2.0. Lulu is a good option for Imperil and Party Enchant, something that no other EX Plus unit can do until Fujin comes later this month. Lulu's primary role is a DPS though, and in that department she's very lacking. Prompto got his EX Plus today and it made him a much better unit, but I personally think his kit is all over the place. Maybe I am being too harsh with him, we'll see next month probably. Sephiroth is a selfish single target DPS with low potencies, but his group gravity EX helps him a lot. Steiner's main role is being a DPS unit, with his EX Plus not offering enough attack for him to stand up to other units with similar role. He's in a very weird place. Sing is a slow unit with really slow EX, which is her biggest asset, and her shaving potential is also lacking, just to name a few of her shortcomings. Faris is still a good dispeller and debuffer, but she is really slow compared to Vanille, who has the same role as her. 8 damage was fine for a long time, but right now he has to rely a bit more on his counters that are not reliable unless you can fix the fight to your favor. Golbez is a selfish mage who is reliant on his Imperil too much, and with a slow EX that can become a liability. His damage without his Imperil is very average. Agria's skill potencies have fallen off, and you will find yourself using her HP plus most of the time due to her low skill count and slow EX. Seymour reaches his full potential when the boss is on low HP, and he takes up to 5 debuff slots on the enemy with average potencies. 7 can be considered a very much worse Leo, because they both offer a unique debuff that boosts your team's damage, but Leo offers way much more than that, and he doesn't have the same problem changing targets as 7 does. Jekt is a selfish DPS that can't imperil his own element, and his free turns feel weak due to his low skill count. Gao is a very versatile magic DPS that can support your team with his counters, but those counters have low hit count and he gets locked in his stances, which can be very problematic for you. Locke is your usual jack of all trades unit that is falling off due to low hit count on his skills, and his 4 frame buffs limits his team building. Charlotta is still doing the same thing with her 20% HP damage aura, but her own damage is falling off rapidly due to her low max brave, and her longevity suffers due to fights taking longer. Last in this bracket we have Rinoa, who didn't gain much from her EX+, and she can't maintain her angel wings at all times due to chaos fights being longer than Cosmos. Kimari has an interesting kit, but his cheese potential is his only redeeming quality because his kit is not up to chaos standards. Machina is a selfish single target DPS that doesn't bring anything special to the fight, while his counters are unreliable. Yuna is a speedy support with 2 death turn skills that really hurts your turn efficiency. Her debuff cleansing can be covered with debuffing immunity units. Van is a selfish mage with multiple elemental skills and he can't imperil any of them. Don't bother using him without Shantoto. Kiaran's skills are average unless he's at 5 stacks of his buff, and those stacks also affect his party aura, which is even worse. Squall is yet another selfish DPS unit with low skill count, and his role can be covered with many other stronger units right now. Aigo takes up 3 party buff slots with generic buffs. Her EX is slow and makes it hard to keep the imperil on the enemy. Terra is a selfish mage that relies on her magic stacks in order to do respectable damage. Her EX is slow and her skill count is low as well. Lise works off her stacking mechanic as well, and you can choose to spend those stacks for either more damage or longevity. In that regard, she is more versatile than other characters with the same playstyle, but she still suffers from it. Garland is one of those early EX plus units, and that means low skill count and an average HP plus for keeping up with other DPS units. Kate Sith takes up 3 party buff slots, and 2 out of his 3 skills are meant for pure damage with no utility, which is weird and average. Ace needs a bit time in order to ramp up to his full potential, and his EX buff RNG is not reliable. His skill count can be considered average for a pure DPS nowadays. Barret is a great shaving unit, but that's about it. Other units offer better auras than him nowadays. Camelnut's kit is all over the place, all the way from low duration debuffs to being reliant on not being broken throughout the fight. The units in the C tier are either outdated by not having an EX realization yet, or they got their EX plus quite early, which made them fall in power. All units I included in this video can be used in Chaos in my opinion, but the units in the C tier will never be your first option for any stage. Thanks for watching the 5th tier list video, and I hope you made it through the end. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this, chaos runs and a lot more. Like I said in the beginning, if you strongly disagree with me on some units, let me know in the comment section below and let's discuss it while being civil. Take care guys, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye.